Hello and welcome to the all-new Marvel Roundup, the Southgate Media Group's guide to the Marvel Comics of the week. As always, I am Phil Parrish, and joining me is...
Charlie Esser.
Alright, and I'm starting us off. We have the same number of books this week, nice and even. I will start with Power Man and Iron Fist number 13. Really interesting book. I mean, I like this book. It's by our friend David Walker. Well, if you want to be his friend, but you could tell they're trying to be a little in that Netflix universe because Black Mariah, Mariah Dillard's big in this, and got Don Trell, and then at Piranha's funeral, there's another funeral, Charlie, and Luke's there with Cornell, who seems much older than he did in the show. But yeah, there's another funeral scene. That so reminded me of What's-His-Face Pops' funeral in the Netflix series. Mm-hmm. But everyone's all worried because, what's-his-name, Alex Wilder, from Runaways, is trying to take over the town, and Tombstone's making his moves, and Luke and Danny are just, interrogating people, and then they get kind of brought in by the cops. But they're asking him all about everything that happened at Rikers, and Luke's like, besides our the investigation into us, there's 5 other different investigations going on. And he says, there was people wrongfully incarcerated, and that's being looked into. But they're like, we've cooperated with all law enforcement agencies as we were required to, and then one of the cops says to Luke, we understand your wife has left you, Mr. Cage. Does that have anything to do with your involvement with what happened at Rikers? How about the recent gang violence in Harlem? Is that why she left you, to get away from it all? And, of course, Luke doesn't like that. And Danny's like, you can contact our lawyers if you need anything else. Then they're talking to someone else, Carlos, in the street, who telling them about Alex Wilder. But then Alex shows up at Senor Magico's magic shop looking for some magical artifacts. Or as he calls them, specialty items. Then we see Luke and Danny making a plan, and Danny's apologizing to Luke and telling him, everything that's happened is because I wanted, made us get back together. He's like everything that happened with Tombstone, and the whole thing at Rikers, the gang war in Harlem, and he's like, and now Jessica left you. He's like, none of that would have happened if we hadn't gotten back together. And Luke's just like, you finished? And he basically just ignores it. And the gang war's heating up because Tombstone goes for help from Black Talon. And then Luke and Danny find Talon. And then Luke and Danny find Senor Magico in his shop. The shop's all messed up, and he's been hurt. And basically, he says, Alex came in looking for tools for street magic, used me to gain access to the sacred vaults of the astral plane. Or basically the Super Soul Stone and a bunch of other stuff was at. Because in the end, we see Alex uses them. He turns himself into almost looks like a half demon or something. With a big smoking red pentagram on his chest.
Okay, well that's very cool.
But yeah, it was a good issue. It's a thumbs up. And this book, I like it, but I might be dropping it at least for a while because I think next month the new Iron Fist series starts. I'm gonna try that, and if it's depending which book's better, if this one's better, I'll go back to it. But there's too many books. Marvel.
Yeah, well, and DC isn't being any nicer to us right now.
Yeah, I don't have I know they said they're starting a Luke Cage series. I probably won't pick that up, but it's just like Marvel. I wish I had the money to pick up multiple Power Man and Iron Fist series, but I don't.
Yeah, well, they want you to pick which one you like best.
I guess.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the next issue of Occupy Avengers myself. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's open up with Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme. We dropped this last week. I did pick it up this week, expressly because it was a light week. And this is what you have to understand, Marvel. If you want people to buy extra books, you've got to space all the books out. I picked this up just as I said I would, because Newton is in it, and we get a nice little secret origin of Newton, where we basically see that Newton, he's always trying to escape the prison of numbers. because is everything just preordained by the nature of the laws of motion, yada, yada, yada. Then he discovers the existence of magic. And for a time, he was the Sorcerer Supreme when the Ancient One was presumed dead. He does that from time to time. He once comes across Doctor Strange and Clea in the Dark Dimension, where they're fighting the in the Never Hills, where they go against Doctor Doom. Bum bum bum, because Doctor Doom is seeking the same thing that Newton is seeking, which is, of course, the word that creates, the word that destroys, the word that was spoken when God, quote unquote, created everything, and only one being in the omniverse knows that word, and he is currently being tortured and destroyed. They find out that these are not actual Dr. Dooms, these are all Doom bots that have been sent by Doom. The guy, Newton, is able to free the one mystical being. He says the magic word and destroys everything. Newton lies to Doctor Strange about what he was actually looking for, and then as he's leaving, he finds an old head. He knows that all the Doombots record everything that they see, and so he finds that it has a partial fragment of the word, and then he spends the rest of his life searching for this word until one day he is imprisoned, and then, of course, Newton finds him, releases him. And then they find the Forgotten, who, of course, knows the word. And now Newton can go back through time and be a god, as he was always destined to be. Bum, bum, bum. But then we find that one of the other beings, one of the other people who is the brother to one of the sorceresses there. And, of course, he knows the word as well. And now we have a problem with everybody knowing this dang word. Oh, this will end poorly, one imagines. Right now, Newton is off looking for the Will of Eternal Life because he stole the Ancient One's arm to get it. And next issue, more stuff. Don't know if I'm going to get it because I just wanted to get that Secret Origin of Newton. It is interesting. But again, too many books, Marvel. You got me. You got back this week because it was a light week. Next week ain't a light week.
Nope.
I don't know what the week after that is. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of books next week that I'm probably not getting. Oh. I'm saying that right now. Nah, that I want to get, but just not gonna. Phil, what's your next book?
All right, I guess I will go to All New Wolverine number 17. Again, a good book, but I think I'm dropping this one too because I don't think I have it. In the budget for 2 Wolverine books, so I'm going to probably continue with Old Man Logan. But this one was good. Laura wakes up and she sees Gabby, her little clone, and Gambit, and young Angel. And she's like, how many people did I kill? Because remember that whole trigger scent thing. And they're like, nobody. You cut the head off a life model decoy, and you electrocuted a couple people who are mostly okay. And Gambit said, I stopped you and blew you up before you could kill anyone. But they took her to a safe house of tigers and Madapore. But they brought more trigger scent, and Laura's like, get that away from me. And they're like, no, we're going to help you fix that. And they bring in young Jean Grey, who's going to go into her head and supposedly help her get over the trigger scent.
Is that ever a good idea? Just say, let's send in the psychic to change your entire brain.
Mm-hmm. Well, that seems to be the X-Men's modus. And then Gabby says, well, I feel no pain, so here. She puts the trigger scent on her and says, here, I have a healing factor and can feel no pain, so... See,
now that's when feeling no pain actually works, when you have a healing factor. Just feeling no pain doesn't do much.
So that drives Laura nuts. Then Jean goes into her head and basically finds Laura seeing herself as a young girl in her head. Her mother's reading to her. Reading Pinocchio to her. But then S.H.I.E.L.D.'s coming because they want to put Laura in the custody, so young Angel swoops up, but then S.H.I.E.L.D. gets attacked by, who was that? The group that was that dropped the trigger scent on Laura, so They get shot out of the sky. Angel helps them evacuate their ship. And then Jean's trying to help Laura. And in her head, Laura stabs Jean. And I guess she stabbed Gabby in the real world, but she gets better.
That was the whole point.
Yeah. And then I guess Laura's okay. She must be over the trigger scent because like the telepathic, MacGuffin. And so she says they can all lock themselves in with her. Says the enemy's coming, but she's fine. Safe in here. And that's about it. Looks like maybe a big fight issue next issue. But no, it was good. Thumbs up. But like I said, I can't afford multiple Wolverine books either, so.
Yeah, well, that's what it comes to. And you got to ask, which is the storyline that you like best?
Yeah.
Fortunately, I already have only one Ms. Marvel book. So let's go to that next for me.
Okay.
This is Damage Per Second, Part 2 of 4, where we see basically it's the school day. People are asking, like, where is Kamala? Kamala does come in, but then she hears all the whispers, but it's not about her. It's about a little red-haired girl who had sent some compromising information to her boyfriend, and then all of a sudden it got sent to everyone at school. We see Kamala hanging with her crew. I'm forgetting her name. I want to say Rosie, but I don't think that's it. But she, Bruno's girlfriend is like, complaining about how sad she feels because her boyfriend was gone and she doesn't want to be not a cool girlfriend who's all jealous or sad, but she does miss her boyfriend. And then they see the little red-haired girl, and then Kamala, Clara is her name, invites her to sit with them all because they want to know that they accept her, she's cool. And then he says, this troll image popped up on my screen, and then everyone had it. And we see that this is the Doc.X program or character or person. They know it's a Doc.X a Doc.X program that both hacked Kamala and then sent out all this stuff. We see the troll that she, on the computer screen talking at her as she tries to track it down. Says you're just a coward, why don't you fight me for real? She says, well, meet me outside. You can fight me for real. And goes out there, and we see a woman in construction garb saying, hello, Kamala Khan. And the fight ensues. She's like, wow, I can't believe it's working. Says, how did you do that? How did you get that strong? Easy, like this. And they fight. Kamala eventually does get the better of it. As the police show, she says, this is just a friendly reminder that you can't hurt me without hurting yourself. The police show, they arrest the woman in the construction garb, and she's like, says, what? I don't know if I can barely email. I don't, what's going on? I don't know what happened. And they basically say they tracked the Doc.X virus over to her. All of a sudden, Kamala's starting to realize that maybe it's not what she thinks it is. The woman is doing her perp walk and says, I haven't done anything wrong. 1 minute I was doing invoices on my computer. The next I was standing in the rain. I never even gotten a speeding ticket. And then there's a call on Kamala's phone and says you set that woman up. How? Where are you hiding? How did she get super strength? How did you create the Doc.X virus? Says, you're asking the wrong questions, Kamala Khan. I didn't create the Doc.X virus. I am the Doc.X virus. Bum, bum, bum. Next issue. Scary stuff. Love the issue as always. Kamala Khan is still, always, it's always firing on, most of its cylinders. This one did fire on all of its cylinders. I have a feeling this is all going to tie back to Bruno in some way. Either Bruno is the Doc.X virus character, or he accidentally created it, and that's sort of his Ultron that we're going to be dealing with in the future. But anyway, waiting for the big tie-in and the tie-back, but so far it's really good. Big thumbs up.
All right, then I guess I'll go to... This was a good one. This was almost my pick of the week. It's probably my number 2, Jessica Jones, number 5.
Oh, the ultimate conspiracy.
Oh, yeah. Jessica's at the police station, and that detective's telling her about how that... what is his name? The guy who killed his wife. How Jessica asked how it happened. He said he stabbed her, cut her throat, and drank her blood. And but he says he will only talk to Jessica, so they let Jessica go in, and he's telling her that he really didn't know Jessica or Luke Cage until he saw the footage from them arguing in the street. And he says, "Hey, that's my street," and yeah, he said he really didn't know them. And Jessica says, "Really, my husband is kind of known," and he says, "Not where I'm from." And then he's like, "Are you here to get me to confess?" She says, "Yes." And he says, "Okay, I confess. I did it. I killed my wife. I stabbed her just so I could, just to stop the constant whimpering and to test the theory." And then he's asking her, "You were asking where I was from." He's like, "Do you know about other realities?" And he has, "Have you ever been to another one?" And she says, "No." She goes, "Unless the bottom of a bottle of Jack counts." And he says, "Well, you were an Avenger. You know Avengers. They've spoken about interdimensional travel." And she says, "And you think you were dropped here from somewhere else? You were there, and now you're here, and you have no idea why or how?" He says, "Exactly, except I know why and how." And yeah, but meanwhile, Luke Cage is about to go into the Daily Bugle to yell at them, for messing with him in the papers and stuff. And he runs into Ben Urich, who tells him, "Yeah, don't go in there." And he's like, "You're just going to give them more stuff, more ammo of you doing stupid stuff." And he says, "What, this is my fault?" And he says, and Ben's like, he's like, "This is a game and there are rules." He's like, they're just going to, they do what they do, and, they don't feel bad about it. So he's like, "So don't go in there, don't they'll laugh at you, and, you're just giving them more ammo, so don't go in there.
They're all going to laugh at you."
And then he says to him, "Isn't finding your kid more important?" And Luke says, "Of course it is." And Ben's like, "Well," and Luke says, "Well," he's like, "if I find my kid before Jessica brings her back to me, then there ain't no coming back from that. No way." He's like, she'll do the right thing. She has to. And back at the police station, Mr. Brownlee's telling Jessica, "It's true." And she doesn't look happy coming out of the interrogation room. The detective's like, "Are you all right?" And she's like, "Did you get what you need?" He's like, "Yeah." And she's outside. She's not happy because I guess they flash back a couple minutes to what they were talking about. He says, "Do you even believe in other realities, other dimensions?" She's like, "I've never really given it much thought." And he says, "What if I told you that certain quote-unquote heroes of this world conspired together and directly caused a chain of events that ended with the destruction of all of those other dimensions just to save this one?" And she's like, she doesn't believe him. She says, if you don't have pictures, it didn't happen." And he says, "Cosmic calamity as survival of the fittest, and only, as far as I can tell, only a handful of people even remember or know it happened." And she says, "But you see how convenient it is that only you remember this cosmic calamity?" And he says, "Tony Stark remembers, others of his kind, and a few like me who survived." He says, "Doesn't matter if you believe me. I'm not stupid enough. There's no reason you should." He says, "I know the words sound insane." He says, "But do me a favor." He says, "Next time you get a chance, ask around. You're a detective. Start snooping. Find out how crazy I am."
How does Tony Stark know? Isn't he dead?
I don't know. How would this guy know Tony Stark knows? But he says...
Although, again, maybe he knows that he's a Tony Stark from... As we've said before, maybe he's not the Tony Stark from this world, but they grabbed another Tony Stark and rewrote his memories.
Yeah.
So maybe and of course, it has been said that Miles Morales knows something, remembers some things of his world.
But
yeah,
but he keeps going. He goes, universes destroyed and no one is held accountable. Billions of lives snuffed out like they never happened. Nothing left but me and the faintest whispers of ghosts. And she says, universes were destroyed, so you killed your wife and drank her blood. And he says, universes were destroyed and nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. He goes, it proves nothing matters. He says, so I took it one step further for me. I proved it to myself. I thought, what is the most horrible, most disgusting thing I could think of? And he says, for me, killing her and drinking her insides was the most horrible thing I could have done. He says, so that proves it. I did the most horrible thing I could think of and nothing happened. The laws of the universe are a lie. Nothing happens. Nothing matters.
Isn't he in jail right now?
Well, that's what she says. She goes, you're arrested. You're actually in jail. He goes, except I surrendered. I just confessed. I did this myself. He says, because I wanted to see what would happen. And she says, well, you're in jail and you're going to see a lot of things you've never seen before.
True that.
He says, or Galactus eats us all by the time I end this sentence, or a gas leak pours all over the eastern seaboard and gives us all superpowers, turns us into mutants, maybe inhumans. Anything could happen, anything, and none of it matters. He says, I killed and nothing happened. Whole other dimensions were destroyed and nothing happened. Billions of people, plants, animals, insects, microbes, billions, maybe trillions, all gone. What does any of it matter? He said, I killed my wife and she really wasn't even my wife. She was who the universe randomly paired me with when I slipped through the cracks of the multiverse collapse. He says, oh, maybe by your definition, the heroes didn't actually destroy the multiverse, but they know about it. They know and they keep it to themselves. They covered it up. He says, which is worse, the cover-up or the crime? He says, it doesn't matter because you're getting it. None of it matters. He says, not my wife, not your husband, not my kid or yours. He says, yeah, I had a kid in the other universe. Her name was Lily. He's like, she doesn't exist anymore. He says, ask your husband, ask Tony Stark, ask it all around. He says, I may not be totally right, but I'm more right than I'm not. So they show Jessica back at her office, and the Spot's arm appears and sends her a note that says, come outside. And that Allison's outside in a limo, and Jessica says, I won't do it for free. So I don't know if has she decided to, do what she wants, or is she still undercover for Carol Danvers?
I don't know.
She says, I want money and I want to get the hell out of here. She says, you want me to give you the goods, Allison? You toss me a big bag of money, $2 million. And Allison's like, fine. And she says, you're fine with $2 million? She says, I thought you were going to... She goes, I was prepared to pay $5 million. And Jessica says, okay, now I want $5 million. And Allison's like, not going to happen now. And Jessica
Although, not for nothing, doesn't this pretty much show this lady as Hydra?
You would think, yeah. Oh, you'll love this part on the last page. Jessica says, the no deal. And Allison says, then get out. D-Man is only 11 blocks from here. I'm sure he'll... And Jessica's like, okay, fine. And she's like, and who am I getting for $2 million? And Jessica says, the one you want. The reason you came to me before D-Man. And she says, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. And I get to watch because what difference does it make? To be continued.
Okay.
But yeah, big thumbs up. There's a lot to think about there.
It sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, that lady so totally was always Hydra. No matter what anyone says.
Or did Carol push her to the dark side?
No, she's Hydra. She got $5 million just tossed around. You don't have that if you don't have if you've never had a speeding ticket.
Well, wasn't she some kind
Everyone always says...
Wasn't she some kind of banker or something?
Yeah, but she wasn't like she was like, a billionaire banker. She was some drudge at the bank, unless she's embezzling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Anyway, let's move on to Deadpool the Duck. Man, I was so ready to drop this book. And man, they pulled and I'm gonna be honest with you, like right now, I'm reading it, I'm like really mad because they don't give us what happened last. We're opening up in the middle of another action scene as Deadpool is breaking into a Roxxon facility and just killing people, going through force fields and people to murder, and he finally gets to the secure safe room vault, and it's a school. Now, granted, it's a school full of blonde-haired young kids who all look suspiciously similar, but it's just a school. And Deadpool the Duck is like, this isn't a Roxxon lab; it's a preschool. What's with all the guards, the guns? It says the barbed wire and the force fields and the bada 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 bada. And the teacher says there have been incidents. Anyway. We get a very sweet scene with Deadpool and Rocket, Deadpool the Duck and Rocket Raccoon. One second. Comic books, they're fun. Anyway, so Deadpool, he's bonding with Rocket, basically saying even the human voices in his head have stopped talking to him, and Rocket's all he has left. Meanwhile, cut to the negative zone, where Howard the Duck is floating in space, and he's talking to someone. We don't know who, but he says, started off trying to get away from people. Now I'm trapped in a place that's nothing but floating rocks. Be careful what you scream at the top of your lungs, right? And he says, like, when I was 8, I told my mom I wanted to run away from home. I come home from school, there's a padlock on the door and a bolt bus schedule. Then we get the recap of what happened, which was basically he was fighting Deadpool, so they didn't have to leave the janitor to die. And the janitor says, there is another escape pod, so they each take the other escape pod. But Deadpool can't drive, so he winds up hitting this janitor who drives him into the space satellite anyway. And we see that basically after that, Howard just stopped talking to Deadpool because he just felt, Deadpool's going to do what he wants no matter what. And he is just more out of control than he ever has been. He just peeps in through the universe every so often to make sure that Deadpool hasn't turned Rocket into a rug. Meanwhile, Deadpool calls Mary from issue 1. Who is this S.H.I.E.L.D. switchboard operator, and basically, asks for help to find the Roxxon lab because he just destroyed a Roxxon facility, but he miscalculated. Did you know that gasoline is flammable? Basically says that he's been turned into a duck. He does not have his teleportation device anymore. Can she send him transport and a dossier on where this lab he's looking for is secure Rocket might be? He travels to some artificial islands off the coast of the United Arab Emirates, which Roxxon recently bought, and it's like sovereign land. He goes in there, blasts in. They're getting the dossier, which is brought to you by generous. Says this S.H.I.E.L.D. exposition file is made possible by a generous grant from the Maria Stark Foundation. Information vital to your survival will resume after this brief commercial messages. They say that the satellite monitoring suggests that the Roxxon facility is currently unoccupied. This may be due to a generous Roxxon policy guaranteeing all employees 3 days off per year, even when local governments don't require it. He finds a big device that says rabies, and he decides to smash the machine, and then Howard peeps in and says, no, don't smash the machine. Put Rocket in the machine. He has rabies. The machine says rabies, so don't smash the machine. It might cure him if you put him in. They go to this thing, and he says, then Howard says, because of course throughout this whole thing, Deadpool was complaining that he doesn't have Ghost Logan as his spirit animal anymore. Says, listen up, bub, it's me, your old buddy Wolverine, not old man Wolverine like the regular one. We gotta stay on mission, bub. Save the raccoon. Just put him in the tube there, okay? You hoser. Says, exactly how stupid do you think I am? Is that a rhetorical question? Then cut to the outside of the Exxon facility, and you see these guards say intruder alarm was tripped. Says, yeah, I wonder why. Says, glad to see you alive, Ms. Basalt. Remember Basalt, the clearly superhuman lady security officer for the Roxxon satellite. Says, how did you escape the station? Shut up and follow me and shoot anything that moves. Says, anything. If it's got feathers, shoot it twice. It's like this, boys. Roxxon hired me to blow up space stations and kick duck butt. And I'm all out of space stations. Bum, bum, bum. Surprisingly, on sale February 22nd, 2017. Yes, very surprisingly. Was totally ready to drop this. It's getting a bit of a reprieve where it's going to get its... Here's what I'm going to say. It's going to get its store read on the 22nd. I'm not saying I'm going to be committed to Deadpool the Duck, but for right now, it's got a store read. That's as high as I can go.
All right. Then I guess I will go to my pick of the week, my last book on my own, Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, number 4. And so it opens up underground, where we left off last issue. Peter, Mary Jane, and Annie are getting chased by the Mole Man and his moloids. And Mole Man has some kind of weapon that he took from Regent's old headquarters, some kind of energy weapon. And he's saying that he's... From the moment he observed the destruction of Regent Tower through one of his Earth periscopes, he knew his destiny had been revealed. That he's going to be Emperor of the World.
Oh, goodness.
So...
That again?
Yeah, so the spiders think they get away. Annie almost falls into... Looks like a pit with lava or something. So Peter and Mary Jane save her, but they get in each other's way. Peter, basically webs Mary Jane in the face. And then above ground, everyone's cleaning up. The media's there. Betty Brant's there. She's talking to Jameson and on the phone, and she says, there was Spider-Man and a woman, and also in a costume, also with powers, was here. And Jameson says, bad enough there's one web slinger capering around the city. Now you want me to believe there's 2? He says, and that the second one's a woman. And Betty's like, yeah, I know, right? Women superheroes, women reporters. What's the world coming to? And Jameson's like, he's like, don't put words in my mouth. He's like, where are you? And she's like, trying to get close enough to hear what Normie Osborn's saying. And he's telling her to try to get in there because Normie's walking around with his, I guess, assistant, and he's saying he wants a list of an inventory of all the items before the sinkhole opened up, and if anything's missing, he's going to get a new head of security. And she says, considering the disruption of the operation, that might require some. And he says, I want it on my desk by the end of business today. And he says, find out who the girl in the spider costume was. And she says, you mean the woman? He says, I said girl. I want to know everything about her, who she is, how she got her powers, where she comes from. I find her fascinating. And then meanwhile underground, basically Peter and Mary Jane are arguing, and Annie says, when am I getting a cool superhero name? And Peter's like, never. And him and Mary Jane are still fighting. Annie's like, hey, I think I found a small passageway to sneak up on the Mole Man, but you guys are too big. I can fit in there. And they're still arguing and not listening to her. So she puts on her mask and just goes into the tunnel herself. And they're like, wait, what? And she says, you talk too much and you never listen. We have to stop the mole guy, remember? She says, you jump in from the front and I'll sneak in from behind. And Peter and Mary Jane are like, first they say they want to strangle her. But they're like, all things considered, they're kind of proud of her. And so the Mole Man's testing out his new Regent weapon. He's saying, he's like, at last, a weapon powerful enough to make my dreams the nightmares of my enemies. And he says, I'm thinking of you, Reed Richards, you fraud, you phony, you Mr. Fancy Pants, I'm so smart. Ha! But it seems, Charlie, that, I guess, I don't know if that weapon gets its energy or it gets stronger from, taking life force from others, so he's just, mowing down his own moloids. He says, because he tells the moloids, he's like, the cause for which you sacrifice yourselves may not be your own, but it is nonetheless a worthy one. And that's when Annie drops down onto the weapon, and Peter and Mary Jane swing in. They're taking out moloids, and Mole Man's about to try to knock Annie off the weapon, but Peter hits him with a web. And he's standing there, and Mole Man says, can we talk about this? And then he goes flying. I don't know who punched him, but one of them punched him. He goes flying. So the issue ends with Mole Man taken into custody and the weapon getting impounded by the government. And Mary Jane saying, I know it's terrible to say about a 10-year-old, but she's talking about Normie. She's like, that young man makes my skin crawl. So I guess Normie Osborn's 10 years old, but he's running Oscorp already.
Yeah, well, in the main Marvel universe, he's also like, just a little kid, but he's not running the company, but he's clearly the Sun King of the Oscorp, or actually, I guess now it's what is it? The Alchemex company now. Oh yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so if any of those other people get suddenly murderized, you know that he would be in charge. So.
But
that's the moral of that story.
Yeah, but Annie says she goes, I think he's cute, and Peter says he's an Osborn. Cute isn't their family trait. And Mary Jane's like, yes.
Wait. Because in the MC2 universe, Normie and Mayday wind up dating. So he's cute. It's like replay of the classic storyline. Yeah. Okay.
And so Mary Jane's like, speaking of family traits, Annie seems to have inherited more than just spider powers and an impeccable fashion sense. We can't keep denying the obvious. And Peter's like, guess not. Welcome to the team, Spiderling. And she's like,
no that's what they're calling it.
I guess. She goes, no joke, I can have a code name. And he says, I just gave you one, Spiderling. She's about, how about Spider Girl? He's like, Spiderling. Spider Kid? Spiderling. Spidester? He's like, don't make me regret this. She's like, Spiderling's okay. He's like, just okay. She's like, it's great. I love it. She's like, I also like Spider Girl. He's like, it's taken.
Wait, how does he know that?
I don't know. This is an alternate universe, Charlie. I don't know what they know.
Well, actually, no. Aranya. Or Ariana.
Maybe.
He started calling herself Spider Girl, so... Maybe that's what he's referring to. Although it makes for a fun gag because they clearly are referencing the MC2, sort of a dark backwards MC2 in this. So sounds cool.
But yeah,
so you like? I was gonna say, man. So you can't afford all of the Luke Cage books, but how many Spider-Men do you have?
Well, I'm even dropping some Spider-Man. I'm probably gonna drop the Miles Morales book. I mean, please. If I only got one Spider-Man book, it would probably be this one.
Really? Renew Your Vows is your top pick.
What?
Renew Your Vows is your top pick. It's your top pick among the Spider universe.
Yeah. Okay. I told you I like a married Spider-Man.
Well, yeah. Who doesn't? I don't know why Bendis decided to break them up, quite frankly.
I don't think it was Bendis.
Wasn't it Bendis whose decision was? No, that was actually Quesada. Quesada, that was his choice.
When Quesada was in charge of the comics, yeah.
Yeah, Quesada. So you've got to be saying Quesada, not Bendis from now on. Okay. Was this your pick of the week or no?
Yes, it was my pick of the week.
Awesome. That brings me to my pick of the week, Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, number 17. Nice opening because they make a lot of fun of Spider-Man and the fact that he's really boring to follow on Twitter because he just does stuff about if you're wondering who I've got blocked, it's at Wealth and at Fame because Wealth and Fame I've ignored. Hashtag action is my reward. Meanwhile, we see that the whole gang, the Brain and Doreen and Nancy are all going to a guest lecturer. We find out that Mary has a doomsday engine, who's the one who told them about it. Mary is an aspiring supervillain because, there is certainly a major in supervillainy at ESU, I think that has to be the case. We get a nice introduction from, what's her name? Let me see. They have her name listed here. I know exactly where it is. Her name is Melissa Morbeck. Melissa Morbeck. She's a very rich woman who is a person who gives consultations and all that kind of stuff, and brilliant engineer. And she is talking about programmer responsibility and the great power. With the great power comes great obligation. They give a nice little history about the Therac 25 that would blast patients with targeted radiation as a treatment, but every so often it had a race condition bug that caused them to receive 100 times more radiation than it was supposed to. And the programmer said it wasn't a bug, it was just operator error, and 3 more people died because of it. Squirrel Girl pipes up and says it's just like the bridge in Quebec. And they go over this whole thing about how this great bridge in Quebec collapsed 100 years ago, and it awakened the Canadian government to the fact that engineers take other people's lives in their hands, and they go over this thing of that before an engineer can become an engineer, they need not only complete their schooling, but take courses in ethics and swear before their equals and their betters that they will do better. And they all wear a ring on their dominant hand made of the same metal the bridge was. So you get a great bit of history there. Doreen gets invited back to Melissa's house for high tea. Nancy decides to dress Doreen, and so she's there in all fancy clothes. Melissa not nearly as fancy. And then Melissa makes a point about how young people there are also bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Says, no reason to get squirrely, Doreen. Bum, bum, bum. And what it turns out is that Melissa can also talk to animals. She's talking to her chicken Alfredo and gives her proof. But actually, Melissa can talk to all animals, not just chickens, and basically says she should come out superheroing with her. And she says, oh, that's a young person's game. She says, come on, what are you, possibly 40? The Vulture's out there. He's got to be in his 80s and is still giving Spider-Man a hard time. And who knows? No one knows who Spider-Man is. He could be a senior citizen too. And Doreen is going into all sorts of things, of ways that she expects to have her help. But of course, what Melissa wants to do is use her vast wealth and resources to help her be a better crime fighter. And we see that she gets a flying squirrel costume, jetpack, and membrane wings. And yay! Her and Tippy Toe are fighting. They run into the Rhino. And again, this is a thing for me. You may recall last week we wound up battling the Red Skull. Now we're battling Rhino. These are all characters in major story arcs, but how are they seemingly separated from all that in the Squirrel Girl storyline? So I'm going to write them a letter saying, I love your book, every single issue. I still love this book, but the continuity is starting to bug me. Anyway, she tells Rhino that she, you get this great little back and forth about how the world treats Rhino. Rhino is unloved, and then you get her basically says, I don't hate you, man. Says, you will, everyone does. Once you get a look, it says, no, listen, when I look at you, you know what I see? Because I don't see the irascible, territorial, unpredictable brute you've named yourself after. I see a man with gifts, special powers that nobody else on the planet shares. I see an even more magical beast, a unique and legendary animal, too perfect for this world. I don't see the Rhino. I see the unicorn. And he goes, oh my gosh. And then Rhino agrees to turn over a new leaf. And Doreen goes and talks to Melissa and says, yes, it worked out great. Loving the wing. Great. Fantastic. Then we see, bum, bum, bum. Meanwhile, Melissa talking to Chef Bear. Says, could you come in here, please? Says, begin preparing dinner. I'm in the mood to celebrate. Pasta, thick noodles, cream sauce, white meat. And she goes, roar, and says, yes, of course, a white wine to pair. Chardonnay, but not too oaky. Says, roar. And he says, Alfredo, please, show a little self-respect. I honestly don't understand your reaction, Alfredo. I literally named you Alfredo the Chicken. Is it that much of a surprise that you end up as a nice chicken Alfredo? Bum, bum, bum. And you see that it says Dorian Green status. Introduce dependency. Control relationships. If willing, recruit. If not, eliminate. So Melissa is a supervillain, and awesomeness did in fact ensue. Oh wow, there was actually I didn't even notice this. There was a second thing here. We see that the We see that the chef bears cooking. He's looking for his knife. Alfredo has the knife, and then something happens. Looks like a laser got shot, and the chicken flies away with a knife. I don't know, man. It's crazy. I'm excited now, though. I didn't even know that was there. So even more so, thumbs up for Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, number 17. You got to read the book. I mean, the interstitials, which I didn't even dwell on, are fantastic. And just all in all, this is just a great book. So big thumbs up.
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess
that brings us to our last book, I believe, Phil.
Yeah, The Unworthy Thor, number 4.
Mm-hmm. What'd you think, Phil?
It was great. I liked it. Just the whole. I was waiting for him to pick up that hammer, and well, we see his hand on it. I don't know if he's actually able to pick it up.
You know what, Phil? If he picked it up this issue, you wouldn't buy the next issue. And I think this is this still a limited series, or is this now an ongoing? Because I don't see limited series anymore on the cover.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about them still going
Well,
on.
it was a limited series when they first rolled it out. But,
I know that. Yeah.
But I also see that it's not saying, issue 4 of 5 or anything like that. So. Anyway, so then what happened, Phil?
Well, that was the end. Well, we
start off with a flashback.
Yeah, him trying to pick up Mjolnir many years ago. And
yeah,
is that his? Oh yeah. He says, "Yeah, I hear calling to me every day, mother." And he's like, "I fought dragons. I rescued children. A child captured by trolls." He's like, "What more do I have to do?" And she's like, "No hammer can make you a better person. Only your heart." He's like, "Maybe if I find another dragon." Then we get
dragons go to bed.
Yeah.
How many times have I told my own kids that?
But yeah, then he's basically making his way through everybody in the present to get to that hammer. Him and Beta Ray Bill.
Well, no, Beta Ray Bill's on his side. He says he's fighting with Tooth Gnasher, Beta Ray Bill, and of course Thori. I love Thori.
And then we get the Black Order telling the Collector basically Thanos wants this, so that means Thanos gets this.
Yes. And the Black Swan tries to grab it, and
and the Collector's like, "Fool, you think I haven't tried that? If an Elder of the Universe can't lift it, then no one can." But then there's Odin's son.
Yeah. Well, we all know he can lift it.
And our mystery figure says, "Don't believe his boast. The Odin son is just as unworthy as the rest of us. Kill him."
Do you think that's a Loki? I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, and then we get private quarters of Thor.
Yeah, flashback.
Wow.
Flashback again to a couple years ago. Him and Jane Foster.
Yeah. Well, you know what I find fascinating about this is that this is after the curse of Don Blake was lifted from him, but still while him and Jane Foster were dating.
Yeah, that's weird. Unless it
because I was thinking,
unless that doesn't make sense unless the timeline's being rewritten somehow.
Yeah, well, we know it does. It as we've learned, it gets rewritten all on its own.
But yeah, he says, every morning he's scared that he's going to go pick up that hammer. He's not going to be worthy all of a sudden. And she's telling him, "You'll always be worthy." And I thought she said something. Oh, I thought that, and she talks about how her mother died of cancer. So.
Oh yeah, she does mention that here, and then we of course say. Yeah, we get her again when she's after he can't lift the hammer anymore. But we get battle scene. And
he's about to pick up the hammer. He's about to pick up the hammer, but then the Collector pulls him away.
I just realized. That's Hela.
What, in the robes?
Yeah, or maybe not Hela. Maybe that. Oh, you know who that might be?
Who
was the Japanese god of the void?
Oh, I can't remember.
I think it was Ichibushu or something. I'll have to look it up later. But yeah, because he says, and I didn't realize this until just now. He says, "A hellhound, what are you doing here?" It says, "What are you doing?" And it says, "What are you doing here?" It says, "Stand down, dog. I command you as her. Don't think you command nothing no more, especially not this dog." So that has got to be a god of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it might be Pluto. Have we seen Pluto recently?
I don't think, but yeah, that
dead. I don't know.
Well, that would be interesting if it was like Hela or one of the death gods, because it's like, why would they have such an interest in him picking up that hammer? Or him not picking up the hammer?
Well, we know that he's here on a deal from Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
So Thanos made a deal with him. You know, the only other possibility is I wonder if it's the void. Maybe the void has been separated from the Sentry.
Yeah, I don't know.
We know that the void was implied to be the angel of death in the Dark Avengers arc. But I just noticed that basically the Hellhound recognizes the person in the figure, and the person in the figure feels he should have power over the Hellhound, and the Hellhound says nope. Now, of course, the Hellhound is the child of the of a Hellhound and was it Cerberus or was it the two-headed dog of the Norse gateway to hell? I don't know. Either way. Anyway, then of course, yes. As you were saying, Thor walks to the new hammer.
Yeah, and then the Collector rips him away, and then we see another flashback just to 9 months ago, like you said, and now he can't lift the hammer, and Jane's there again. Now you could tell it's Jane, now that she has the cancer, and she's telling him, you haven't slept, you haven't left this room, and he says he's busy being useless and unworthy, and she says, as someone who loved you for a very long time, the hammer doesn't make the man. She says, you're more than just a chunk of Uru, and he says, easy for you to say, Jane Foster, you've never held it.
Waka waka.
Mm-hmm. And he says he's going to get the one thing he can lift, mead, and lots of it.
Yeah. Know the feeling, man. Know the feeling.
I was going to say, turn into Charlie Esser.
Yeah. All I need is a hammer, man. If I had a magic hammer, then I would be something different.
Mm-hmm. But he's saying, since this whole thing started, he hasn't had a drink in months. The only food he's consumed is the same gruel the guards fed to all the Collector's pets. He hasn't slept unless you count being beaten unconscious. In other words, not only am I unworthy, I'm irritable. A supremely dangerous combination. I love how they, what is that, the Hellhound or whatever? The Hellhound's trying to pick up the hammer.
It says, Thor is trying to fetch good dog. It tastes worse than Hellhound poo.
That must mean it's evil. So, Thor knocks the Collector over. But yeah, at the end of the issue, we see him grip the hammer, but we don't see if he's able to lift it.
Yes, but what else do we see?
The mystery figure. Yes, the unseen sea.
No.
What?
No, that's not the mystery figure.
Oh, wait. Who's that?
That's Nick Fury.
Is it?
Count the eyes. Yes, the unseen is Nick Fury. It says the unseen sees what began with a whisper now ends with thunder.
Could that be Nick Fury then?
Yeah, that is Nick. No. That's a different being than the one that's the
Okay.
That's the other hooded. We got two hooded figures. The way you tell the difference is one has one glowing eye.
Mm-hmm. Well, we really didn't see. I mean, look at the hooded figure from a couple pages back. You really can't tell if his eye. Well, they kind of make it look like
we don't see the one glowing eye. That's what denotes Nick Fury is. That's how you know it's the unseen. Is he has one glowing eye. The other guy doesn't have any glowing eyes. I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there actually is. If you can see that there are two eye sockets there that are kind of lightly shaded. So he does. So the other character, really poor character design. We have two totally shadowed hooded characters, but yes, but those two are supposed to be different because you remember that the unseen started the whole thing, when he told Thor there was another hammer. So even under punishment by the Watchers, Nick Fury still stirring the pot.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you love him.
Oh, wait. At the end of the letters, I just saw the end of that letters page. Next issue probably should be the last issue because it says, next month, join us for the last installment when Odin's son faces his final challenge for the hammer of the ultimate Thor. And maybe, just maybe, we'll learn what it was that Nick Fury whispered in his ear that made him unworthy.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, can't wait. Well, we'll definitely all be back here next month, or actually not even the end of this month. I don't.
What? No.
2 weeks time.
Oh, no. I think Mighty Thor's every 2 weeks. This is on the letters page. Is saying next issue comes out March 22nd. So.
Oh, March. I thought it said February 22nd. My bad. Good. Thank good. We need some books that are still monthly. Thank you, Marvel.
Well, that's what I was going to say before. If they want to put out all these books, why don't they make some only come out every other month or something?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, what would it hurt?
It's like if you want to put like Iron Fist and Luke Cage out 1 month and then put out Power Man and Iron Fist the next month and rotate it, or 1 month is Old Man Logan, next month's all new Wolverine. Switch it up.
Yeah, well,
the
problem is that what the problem is they don't do it based on our schedules. They're putting all these books out there, but they don't really know which are the books that everyone wants to read. And honestly, the books they're putting out wouldn't necessarily be a problem for us, except that we podcast on them.
Yes. So
it's like we can't leave a book for next week when we'll have a light week if we have a heavy week this week, Mm-hmm. That's the conundrum. Anyway, you wanted to keep us under an hour, Phil. We're almost there.
Yes. All right, so yeah, thumbs up on Unworthy Thor.
Yes. So should we do social needs?
Yes.
Sock needs, as they say.
Yeah, so like we said, there's a ton of books. So if you want to send us a review, like our friends have been doing, you can always email us, marvelroundup@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/allnewmarvelroundup, and follow us on Twitter @Marvel_Roundup. And while you're there, why don't you follow Enough Said itself at Enough Said Podcast, because you'll get.
And of course,
sorry,
no finish.
No, I was gonna say, follow Enough Said. You'll get the lowdown on all the shows here. So, but go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I was going to say, and of course, as far as writing into us, you will hear on Super Connectivity this week another letter from loyal listener Kenneth Smyson. If you're a Smyce head, like I am.
Stockton Piner.
Right, my loyal listeners, there's only 2 of you. How can I keep on screwing you up? Okay. So if you're a Pinehead, as I am, or Stockhead, I don't know, what you... If you love when Stockton and Kenneth write us, Stockton wrote us this week, and you're going to read his letter live on the air.
Yes.
On Super Connectivity this week. And that should kill a few minutes. And if you like Super Connectivity, write to me. And if you like the Roundup, write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's Super Connectivity Blog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters @Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality.
And as for me, you can always get a hold of me about anything Marvel, anything DC, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am @nightwingpdp. And if you like me and Charlie Esser, make sure to check out the Legends of DC Pod, where Charlie, and our friends podcast about all the CW DC shows. Check out Before the Bat. Our next episode, we're going to have another special interview. And check out all the other shows here on Enough Said and on Channel 52. All right, so that is it. Join us next week. Like we said, the power will increase greatly next week. So until then, keep your eyes open. Well, unless you're Nick Fury, keep your eye open. Good night.